Hey guys, this is the Dream It Alive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. We're a global online community that guides you to create your dream life with visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development, self-growth content. So take that next step. Why not become the best version of yourself? You owe it to yourself. Check it out at DreamItAlive.com. Today's guest is Christopher Rausch, the creator of the KickAss Guide to Life, a complete guide to living your best personal and professional kick-ass life. Christopher's also a really well-known speaker and someone who's just really inspirational. I've met Chris several times. We've known each other for a few years now. I've actually participated on his show prior, and you know what I like about Chris, among other things, is he just has this take charge. I don't care what you're dealing with, you can live the best life. Don't worry about your past. Create today as the best day, and don't let yesterday get in the way. And that's kind of a mantra that I have, and I'm really just curious to learn from Chris. How did he develop this kick-ass guide mindset, and what inspirational and aspirational and just successful advice that we all could learn so that we could become the best versions of ourselves. So Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, Ash. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. So I'm curious, Chris, how did you get to where you are right now? Tell us a kind of overview of your life journey.
All right. Well, thanks a lot again for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. My journey really started off a number of years ago, 45 years ago to be exact. And I grew up in the inner city of Los Angeles in a city called Inglewood. And if those of you guys out there familiar with it, it's a really rough neighborhood. And I grew up learning about reverse discrimination at an early age because I was the only white kid in a black neighborhood. And I didn't understand why I was being picked on for being different. And grew up in a and I hate to do the woe is me tale kind of, but part of my life story is the fact that I grew up with a lot of emotional and physical abuse from my mom. I never knew who my dad was. I call him a sperm donor. Later on in life, I found out who he was, but I never met him. And my life transitioned a little bit when we moved to a middle class neighborhood here, still in Southern California. And I thought that life was going to be normal, but unfortunately, the new normal was still the consistent mental and physical abuse. And everything really, really changed on May 10th, 1982, when we went from living in a 4-bedroom house in a middle-class neighborhood to the backseat of a station wagon, along with 18 cats and 4 dogs. So that was a turnaround. I was 13 years old. I had to drop out of the 7th grade to help my mom take care of these animals. And the hierarchy in her life, she struggled with lots of mental disorders and things of that nature. And she wanted to keep her cats and her dogs, so we wound up having to live in the car. And it's a long story, but long story short, the next 4 years of my life were complete hell. In and out of the car, living on the streets, living in motels, being exposed to drugs, violence, gangs, fighting, stealing, all sorts of bad stuff, until one day I made a decision that was one of the toughest decisions I ever had to make in my life, and I got an opportunity to get out of this motel we were living in after my life was threatened because I wouldn't buy a carton of cigarette off this guy. And I made the tough choice that I would leave the motel, but I wouldn't leave my mom necessarily. And I got out of that situation. I got back into school. I got my GED. Long story short, got my master's degree in organizational management, and now, like you said in the introduction, I'm a very successful professional speaker, coach. I have my own radio show, as you've been on there. Married to my best friend for 7 years, been together for 12 years. Still have a day job where I'm the director of operations. And my whole goal in life now, Ash, is just to really help people have an unstoppable attitude for personal and professional success, with an emphasis on really helping our young kids achieve their dreams. Because if I can go from being a homeless 7th grade dropout, to where I'm at today and do it authentically, then I want to make sure our kids of today have that same opportunity, and that they consider their mindset differently and not be a victim of their past, but be, a victor of their future.
Well, that was an amazing story, and it's so inspiring, just what you've been through and what you've gone through. And, there's so many nuggets of wisdom that you can get from that story. And one of the things I want to ask is, when you wanted to make that shift, when you wanted to stop being that, person who's living in poverty, person who has that mindset of failure, what first got you to go on that path for success? Did you read certain books? Did you, even before getting your organizational development degree, that shift, I always feel that every successful person, including you, has this, there's like this, that pivotal shift, and then you decide to do a couple actions. What were those for you?
Quite honestly, one of the first things is somebody gave me, and I actually wrote a blog about this, and I think I even did a video on it on my site. I said how cassette tapes changed my life. And somebody gave me a set of Tony Robbins. You had Jarek on last week, which I thought was really cool. Somebody gave me a box of Tony Robbins cassette tapes, which I still have to this day, and they said, listen to these things and let me know what you think. And so I took my little Walkman cassette player and I listened to them, and with an open mind, because I was at a point where I had tried to kill myself twice. Unfortunately, I sucked at it. And I listened to these tapes, and at first I was like, yeah, whatever, this is going to be stupid, and da-da-da-da. And I started listening to them, and the central premise of it all was that we're responsible for where we focus our thoughts on, and we're responsible for changing the direction of our life at any particular moment. And I got this opportunity. I was doing telemarketing this is going to sound creepy, but I was doing telemarketing out of a guy's apartment. It was for roofing contractors. It wasn't for any 976 numbers. And the guy, we went to work, me and my buddy who lived in the motel, we went to work that day, and he says, well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And we were like, okay, great, here it goes again. He goes, well, the bad news is I'm going to close up shop and I'm going to move to Texas. And we just looked at each other like, oh, man. And then he says, but the good news is I know you guys have been trying to get out of that sleazy motel, and I'm going to leave my apartment for you, so you that way you don't have to worry about coming up with the deposit and the first month's rent and everything. So this is your opportunity to get a fresh start. And coupled with the cassette tapes and coupled with the fact of, looking at what these people in the motel were doing, it's like, I have a choice here. I'm going to fork in the road. And Tony talks about, everything we do is either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. And I thought about all the 4 years I spent digging in trash cans, trying to help my mom have her cigarettes, her beer, her cat food, her dog food, and then at the end we got to eat. I made that tough decision. I said, listen, I got to go, otherwise I'm going to wind up dead or in jail. And it was because of those tapes and listening to that. The next point of that was surrounding myself with the right people. I think it's Stephen Covey who said, if we're like the 5 people around the most. And my success continued to change when I grasped that nugget, and I still hold on to it to this day. I tell people, look around yourself and look at the 5 people you're around the most. And if they're negative Nellies and they're not very successful, and then you got to really look at what decisions you make, even if it's family, even if it's married partners, what you want to do with your life and how you want to shape it.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about some of the things that you're listening to and some of the mindset. How do you stay grounded and stay true? Because you've had a lot of past trauma and things that you've resolved, but it can be easy to go back to the old ways. Like, how do you stay focused and grounded and keep on achieving more and more and not go back to your old ways?
Great question, Ash. It's, the biggest thing that I do is give. And it's amazing. Oftentimes we look at, it's this thing called reticular activation where, once you find something, you hold on to it and you keep finding more of it. And if we find the negativity and the crappy things that are going on in life, somehow we manage to find more of that. Why I volunteer and I donate my time to at-risk kids, whether it's the Olive Crest Children's Foundation. I just got signed on to be a speaker for an organization called The Brightest Star, where I'll be going out and speaking against the stigma of mental abuse. And when I do that, Ash, it's the greatest gift I can give to myself. I know I'm helping these kids, and I know I'm helping them change their futures, but it helps keep me grounded in why I'm doing this. Because I'll be honest, this year, doing the success that I've gotten and being in the mastermind I'm in, I've got people saying, oh, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And I got lost in the applause, and I got lost in the limelight and everything. And I was like, okay. And I stopped and I said, why am I doing all of this? And I realized it was, when I was on the back seat of that station wagon, I still remember this, the only goal I had in my mind at that point, aside from surviving, was one day I want to own my own house. I want my own house that nobody can take away from me, that I'll have my own bedroom, and I'll be able to do that and give back to the people of the community. And one of the greatest days of my life is the school I dropped out of, I never got a chance to say goodbye to my friends or anything. By just communicating with people, I found out that one of my good friends' wife worked at the school I had to drop out of. She was a PE coach. And I said, one of my greatest dreams would be able to go back to the 7th and 8th grade class at Brookhurst Junior High and be able to tell those kids, hey, no matter what you do, no matter what you're up against, no matter what your parents have told you and done to you, and whatever else happens, you have the ability to change your life at any particular point. And they said, yeah, we want you to come do it. And I videotaped it. It's on my YouTube channel. And I got to go talk to the 7th and 8th grade class and tell them, hey, I was just like you. And it was, it was amazing. And it started me on that path, because afterwards I had these kids walking up to me saying, oh, hey, I'm in Olive Crest Children's Foundation, or hey, I'm homeless right now, or hey, I'm living in a motel. And it just keeps me, once I keep that in my mind, I stay grounded. And I have accountability partners too that help. Hey, Chris, you're kind of, getting off the path a little bit.
So one of the things I'm hearing from you is that, first off, I'm totally with you. Gratitude, and I have a saying, gratitude creates the right attitude. And I love the fact that you're expressing this gratefulness for society. Tell us about a moment when someone helped you, and that was that pivotal moment where you're like, you know what, someone helped me. I'm so grateful, and I'm going to make a shift for the better.
Great question. It really, I owe it to a guy named Bill White. And what's interesting is he was my girlfriend's dad when I was about 17 years old. When I just got out of the motel, we met these girls. My friend got a job at Kmart and met these girls, and they come over to the house. And so I started dating this girl, and she says, I want you to meet my parents. And mind you, at this time, I was a long hair rocker, scruffy, smoking cigarettes, smoking pot. And I go to meet her family, and I'm like, I didn't really know what to expect. And then I saw the house, and I was like, okay, they're upper middle class. This is going to be funny. And her dad was really instrumental in helping me, really understand and appreciate and respect everybody for being different and what path they've been on, and not to judge them for what they're going to potentially be in their future. And he gave me a shot. He gave me a job at his company, and he says, this is not just because you're dating my daughter, but I think you're a smart guy. Gave me a job there, really encouraged me to go back to school. I wouldn't have gone back to school if it wasn't for the fact that he was like, hey, you should probably go back to school. And it's like, well, it's too late for me. I'm 17, almost 18 years old. And he says, no, you can do this thing called a general equivalency diploma. And of course I wanted to keep dating his daughter. So I'm like, well, shit, I got to do this. And I did that. And it just, my relationship with him was so cool. And me and the girl actually wound up getting married. And he and I had a great relationship, and I even got to hold his hand when he passed away about 15 years ago. And I'm still friends with their family. I was just at my ex-wife's house on Saturday. I had dinner with her mom last week. I still call her mom. So he really showed me that we have to look at people for what they possibly can become and not where they're at. And I owe a lot to him and his family, and I love them dearly, and they're my great friends.
That's awesome. I have one more question on your mindset, because you have a very, your story and how you're staying so grounded and successful. So I'm really fascinated with kind of the tricks and trades and tools that how you succeed. What role has goal setting tools like dream boards or using visualization had in your life? And is there any example that you could share with us? Sure,
absolutely. I use DreamItAlive.com. I use that when I'm at a computer. I've also got on my iPad, I've got a vision board. For most of the people out there with an Android or a tablet device, you can set up this photo gallery where it actually passes slides in front of you. So every day at my desk, I've got the pictures going past me while I'm playing music or doing whatever. I utilize the worksheets that I give to my clients for goal setting. They're very easy to follow. I mean, it just basically says, what is your goal? What are the potential obstacles? How will you overcome them? And why are you doing this? What's the big why? And that's the big thing I teach with people is like, when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. And other tools I use, I have accountability partners. I belong to a mastermind. Another thing I do is I listen to some sort of educational or motivational content nearly every single day. So whether it's, I belong on audible.com, so I'm listening to, business books or relationship books. I'm listening to podcasts. I belong to morningcoach.com, which is every day they give you new educational or motivational content. So every day I'm just filling my brain full of that. And then, the gratitude is really a big thing that keeps me grounded and keeps me going. but I incorporated all of it. And I'll be honest with you and your listeners, even for me, as motivated and as positive and as energetic as I am, I still have those days and even weeks and months where you can get negative. You can get into that vicious cycle like, oh, it's not happening fast enough, or, oh, why has it happened for them? And, oh, maybe I should, put the suit and tie back on. I'm human like everybody else, and you just have to, wake up every day and go, okay, am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? And not give yourself any excuses and just get to work and make it happen. And like I said, get around the right people and take risks in life.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you being so humble and sharing that that whole experience. I actually have a caller. So Renee has a question for you, and she wanted to know, hey, Chris, just really curious. You wrote a book. Tell us why you decided to write that book, and what was your intent behind the KickAss Guide to Life?
The book, yes. 69 Tips for Living Your Kick-Ass Life, Volume 1. You know what? I have a bunch of books in the works, and one of the books that I'm working on, I'm making a goal for 2015, is a book about me and my mom and our story and how to overcome adversity and the whole family thing. But I wrote that book because I was sitting there thinking about life's little instruction book, that little book that everybody had where it was like all these simple rules for, what you could do to have a great life. And because of my branding, where for your listeners, my branding is different. I wear a bandana, I wear jeans, I wear Converse, I wear a tie, I wear a vest. So I'm like part business, part rock and roll. I'm just being me. And my branding is kind of like if it was Tony Robbins and George Carlin at an AC/DC concert. So you can imagine it's motivational, but it's also very raw. I use colorful language in my materials, so it's not for everybody. But I wrote this book, and I thought, okay, wouldn't it be cool for people out there who appreciate, the more colorful side of life, if I wrote this life's little instruction book, but with the tips that I've learned in my life, because I get a lot of people asking me like, oh, Chris, what does it take to have a kick-ass life? I'm like, okay, first off, don't be a dick, so I just put this book together, and it's part entertainment, but it really is just me being transparent and very passionate about cutting through the BS and getting people to overcome their self-created crap. And so this is book number 1. I've written, actually, I think I'm up to 192 of them, of these tips where I break them down. And on my website, if they go to ChristopherRausch.com and they sign up to be on my newsletter, you get a free ebook download, which is 160 of those tips. It's not them spelled out, but it's actually the heading of the tip. And again, it's just stuff that, I've had conversations over beers or coffee, and it's just straight ahead stuff that is designed to make people change.
Okay.
If they want.
That's a great explanation. I hope you got what you wanted, Renee, there. James has a question. James wanted to know, hey, Chris, when you were talking about living in poverty and you were, rising to become your best self, what aspect did health and fitness in those areas apply into the whole process?
James, great question. Thank you. That is so important. That is so vitally important. I've been going to the gym since I think I got my first gym membership when I was about 18. It was Holiday Health Spa, which is now Bally's. And I learned really quick because I was doing, drugs and drinking and all this other stuff that, the successful people out there in life take care of themselves, number one. And that's, sometimes people consider that being selfish, but it's not. You have to make time for that. And so throughout my life, I've always gone to the gym. I at least work out anywhere from, lately it's been a little bit less, I'll be honest, but it was about 5 or 6 days a week, and taking good vitamins. Last year I got a health and diet coach who helped me really understand more about organic foods and grass-fed beefs and stuff like that. And it's so important because most people go to the gym to look good, and I go there because it's my way of resetting my brain and getting my aggression out and getting a lot of oxygen in my body and just feeling really good. There's never been a time where I've gone to the gym where I walked out there and said, "Oh, that was a crappy idea." And so it helps me stay centered. It helps me feel good. And I have 2 goals in life, and people are usually pretty surprised at the fact I only have 2 major goals. And one of them is to die without any regrets, and the second one is to stay the hell out of a hospital. It's just, if I could do those 2 things, then whenever my time's up here on planet Earth, I will have lived a kick-ass life.
Okay, that's great. That's a great answer. I really like that. Jeff has a question for you, and his question is, hey, Chris, I was kind of curious, when Ash and you were talking about dream boards and visualization, I am a 9 to 5 employee, and I have a very specialty job where it's very hard for me to kind of leave this job because it is what it is. It's my specialty. How can I visualize myself and become my own self-made entrepreneur?
That was Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, excellent question, Jeff. I like transparency. I'm still at my job. I've been at my job for 21 plus years, and I've got a lot of people in my corner saying, "Oh my God, Chris, you should break off and do your speaking all full time and everything." And you just have to get to a point where you can transition safely. I've got some friends of mine that are entrepreneurs, and they quit their day job and they pulled everything out of their savings account, and they, because everybody told them, "Oh, you're the greatest thing since canned beer," and they wound up falling on their face a little bit. So my thing is that as long as you take a little bit of time, as long as you take a little bit of time every single day and work towards your goal of what it is that you want to do full time with your life, then you're going to make that transition one day. I mean, I know that for me, it's hard. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of time. My wife is super understanding because I go home every other night and I spend 3 or 4 hours in my office, whether it's coaching or writing new content on the blog or the book or getting more speaking gigs, whatever it might be. You just have to just apply yourself each and every day and get out there and meet new people and visualize and see the confidence building that what you're meant to do on this earth is what is going to happen for you. And when you get discouraged, acknowledge those times, but get back up and get the right people around you, get the right coaches. I fully believe in coaches. I'm not selling myself, but when you have a coach that's holding you accountable, that personal accountability, whether it's working out, whether it's life coaching, relationship coaching, whatever it is, when you have that and somebody's holding your nuts to the fire, that's when you get results. And it's sad because so many people say, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. And my life changed when I said, you know what? It's not an expense, it's an investment. And I invested money into the mastermind. I invested money into my success. I invested money into a website designer who can actually do it instead of me doing it. And my success has changed, and it's awesome. I know there's going to be a point in time where I can do this full time and really enjoy it. But there's also perks to having, health benefits and things of that nature. So my advice would just be stick with it, keep yourself focused, and know your why. When you know your why and you're passionate about it, there's nothing that can stop you.
Okay. Well, hey, Chris, thank you so much for being on this interview. Thank you so much for making the world be a better place. I cannot wait to see the kick-ass stuff that you're going to be doing in 2015 and beyond.
Awesome, Ash. I really appreciate it. And if your listeners want to connect with me, they can go over to ChristopherRausch.com, RAUSCH, ChristopherRausch.com. I'd love to talk to you and know how I can help you.
Okay. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Awesome. You too.